10 years after I died, my wife, the gentlewoman I knew, went completely off the rails. She became a force of nature, an unhinged mastermind, tearing the world's order apart at the seams. A program called the System sent in dozens of challengers to try and pacify her. They all crashed and burned. Finally, out of options, the System brought me back. Memories wiped clean. I was dropped in front of her. That's when the text started scrolling across my vision like a Twitch stream's chat overlay. Is the System nuts? The last guys either looked just like her dead husband, had the same personality, or were literal supermodels with genius-level IQs. And none of them moved the needle even 1%. This new guy, he's got nothing in common with the original except for being male. Dude's going to be dead in a day tops. The System told me my name was Ethan Cole, age 23. My mission was to redeem the infamous Serafina Vance, a woman 10 years my senior with a reputation for absolute ruthlessness. Don't make the same mistakes the others did, the System warned, its voice a flat, synthetic monotone. You'll die for real this time. It showed me the case files of every challenger before me. None of them had a happy ending. After the phone screen went dark, I looked at my own reflection. The face staring back was painfully average. I'm nothing like them, I said. How am I supposed to succeed? The System was silent for so long, I thought it had disconnected. You can, it finally said, a strange inflection in its tone. It paused. Only you can. I didn't understand what it meant. Following the System's directions, I found an upscale Manhattan restaurant where Serafina was. Before I could even get close, her bodyguards intercepted me. Their dark suits forming an impassable wall. Serafina sat by the window, a slash of crimson in a designer coat, waiting for her daughter to join her for dinner. She was looking down, not even gracing me with a sliver of her attention. But as I looked at her cold, elegant profile, an unconscious urge to scream her name rose in my throat. A wave of profound grief and ecstatic joy washed over me, threatening to drown me right there on the sidewalk. I froze, completely bewildered. Before I could process it, one of the bodyguards shoved me hard, sending me stumbling back into the street. He got in my face, jabbing a finger in my forehead. Don't even think about it, he snarled. Some people are out of your league. This is a warning. Next time, we won't be so gentle. As if on cue, the sky turned a bruised purple and a sudden downpour lashed the city. I wiped a trickle of blood from the corner of my mouth and slowly pushed myself to my feet. A black town car pulled up to the curb. Serafina's daughter, a little girl with bright, curious eyes, hopped out. When Serafina saw her, she stood to greet her, but her face remained a mask of indifference. Maybe my stare was too intense. As the girl took her mother's hand to go inside, she glanced over at me. I stood up straighter, forcing a gentle smile. Unlike her mother, the girl had the decency to offer a small, polite nod in return, but it was only a glance. A bodyguard quickly stepped in, blocking her view. Their figures disappeared into the restaurant. My heart felt like it had been physically scooped out, leaving a raw, aching hollowness that made me feel lost and agitated. Before I could make sense of anything, black text began to fade into my vision. A new wave of comments appearing and then vanishing. The System's gone crazy. What makes him qualified to be a challenger? You can tell the System is terrified of Sarah blowing up the world. It's getting desperate. Too bad she only went psycho because her husband died. She was obsessed with him. They've sent hundreds of challengers. Guys with the same face, guys with the same personality, guys who had all his memories. Hell, even drop-dead gorgeous geniuses. I stared dumbfounded as the messages materialized and faded. It took me a moment to start trying to memorize the key phrases. So, this Serafina they were talking about was that dangerous and so many challengers had already failed. No wonder the System kept telling me to be careful to just try and get her to notice me in the beginning. It really seemed like it was out of cards to play. Otherwise, why choose me? But what could I, a completely unremarkable person with no discernible talents, possibly do to redeem Serafina Vance? As if on cue, the chat started discussing me again. But the world hasn't imploded yet. So that's got nothing to do with this new guy, right? True. Her husband only left her with a kid. If she hadn't been pregnant with a child, she would have taken the whole world with her to the grave years ago. He was her first love, the one that got away the whole 9 yards. The only person on earth who thought she was a good, gentle person. The second he died, she dropped the act. Anyone who shows up pretending to be him is signing their own death warrant. So, what's the plan for this one? Besides being the same gender, he's a total zero. Average looks, no charisma. How's he supposed to get close to her? I thought he'd be dead on day one, but he survived. I'll bet he joins his predecessors by day 2. I'll take that bet. I'm in. It's freezing out and it's pouring rain. Hope he doesn't get sick before he even sees her again. How pathetic would that be? A string of laughing emojis flooded my vision. I lowered my head and staggered away into the rain. I never expected my next encounter with Seraphina's world would be initiated by her daughter. She cornered me as I was leaving a 24-hour clinic. Stop. She tilted her chin up, her eyes locked on mine. You know me, don't you? Why would she ask that? I answered honestly. No, I don't. For a split second, the little girl's smile faltered, her eyes filling with confusion. The sparse chat log in my vision exploded. Oh no, I'm getting secondhand embarrassment. Where did the system find this tactical genius? Even if you don't know, just lie. It's not rocket science. Ignoring the chat, the girl pressed on, her voice urgent. She pointed at her own face, then pulled a small blue compact mirror from her pocket and shoved it into my hand. What about our eyes? Look at our eyes. The chat flared up again. So, the system's big play is, hey, Sarah, I found a guy with the same eyes as your dead husband. LOL. Besides the eyes, he's a completely different person. What's so special about eyes anyway? I finally took a closer look. So, that was a feature of Seraphina's late husband. Seeing no reaction from me, the girl's expression fell, her mouth turning down at the corners. She looked exactly like her mother, except for the raw disappointment in her eyes. A woman in a sharp business suit hurried over. Miss Lily, what are you doing here? She said, flustered. We need to get back. Your mother will be worried if she can't find you. Lily's head drooped as the woman turned her away. After a few steps, she paused and spoke, her tone suddenly cold and dismissive. Arrange for a place for that man to stay for a while, she ordered. And get him some clean clothes. He smells like he hasn't showered in 3 days. Her words hit their mark. My face burned with shame. She was right. The system hadn't given me any perks. The only reason I was still alive was because of the few crumpled bills in my pocket, which had been just enough for a couple of meals. The girl, Lily, left, and I dragged my aching body forward. The system had explained that I died 10 years ago during a kidnapping. By all rights, a new male protagonist should have appeared in Seraphina's life. But her inherent instability, the madness in her bones, meant that my death caused her to completely blacken. She killed anyone the system sent to guide her, gradually seizing most of the world's wealth and power. If this world collapsed, the system would disappear with it. Over the years, it had burned through its own energy just to keep things stable. That's why when it resurrected me, it could only crudely piece my body back together. The only things that were the same as before I died were my eyes and the scars. No wonder they laughed at me. Even I couldn't see any hope of success. But this was my only chance to keep living. And before anything else, I had to find a way to survive. Swallowing my pride, I managed to get a job as a security guard at the front gate of Seraphina's luxury apartment building. Being young, I was often put on the night shift. Sometimes I'd see her daughter. Lily never smiled at me. Her face was always a cold mask. Another night bled into early morning. I sat in the security booth sipping a cup of hot water. I'd managed to scourge up to warm my hands. 2 minutes later, Seraphina's white BMW swept past me through the gate. I knew it was her because the live string chat, silent for weeks, suddenly flooded my vision. Finally, day 10 and I finally see Sarah again. What is this guy doing? All he does is go to work. He's making 0 moves. What's with the system? Isn't it going to give him a push or something? My heart hammered against my ribs. I was so flustered. By the time I looked up again, Seraphina's car had disappeared into the underground garage. A month later, I finally had a roof over my head, even if it was just a corner of the security office. One day, the property manager got a complaint and sent me up to deal with it. I glanced at the apartment number. A knot of anxiety tightened in my stomach. It was Seraphina's penthouse. As the elevator ascended, I saw my own tense face reflected in the polished steel doors. When I reached her floor, I heard it, a faint, ragged breathing. I immediately rushed to her door and slammed my hand on the doorbell. The chat was spammed with question marks. What's he doing trying to break in? If he had this much energy, he should have just camped out downstairs for Sarah. She's on her way home. I froze for a second, staring at the door. The only response was a more frantic, rasping breath from inside. I knew it was her. After a moment's hesitation, I tried a random password on the keypad. The lock clicked open. The chat went dead silent. They were stunned that I gotten the password on the first try, but even more shocked by the scene inside. In the dim light of the apartment, Serafina was curled into a ball on the sofa, wearing a long silk dress. She was hugging herself tightly, her eyes wide with a terrifying vulnerability. When the door opened, her head snapped towards me, trembling. She was clearly drained of all strength. But after the initial shock, her eyes filled with a fierce animalistic weariness. I strode into the room and flipped on every light, then yanked open the heavy blackout curtains. Seeing her relax just a little, I asked, "Where's your medication?" Serafina just stared at me, silent. I couldn't wait. I started searching the apartment, my hands flying through drawers and cabinets until I found the pills, and brought them to her with a glass of water. She took them from my hand, her breathing slowly evening out, though her face remained deathly pale. My own heart was still clenched tight. I stood up under her intense gaze, my only thought to run. But she grabbed my wrist, her grip surprisingly strong. Her eyes locked onto mine. "How did you know all of this?" Her touch was so cold it sent a shiver through me. Before I could react, she pulled me down towards her. "It's you," she whispered, her voice cracking. "It's you, isn't it?" A flicker of something unreadable, something desperate, flashed in her eyes. I looked away, flustered, unable to meet her gaze. Did she think I was her dead husband? Seeing my silence, her grip loosened slightly. I seized the opportunity and fled. Serafina remained on the sofa, a portrait of fragility and utter loneliness. The moment I shut the door, the chat started roasting me. He looked into a golden opportunity and just walked out. OMG, that's the first time I've ever seen Sarah like that. If it were me, I'd have thrown myself at her feet and offered to be her live-in butler. How often do you see the Ice Queen that vulnerable? He just missed a once-in-a-lifetime chance. I knew what they were thinking. They wanted me to push too hard, get myself killed like the other challengers, so they could see who the system would send next. But I had a gut feeling that wasn't the way. The next few days passed, and Serafina didn't have me taken care of like the chat predicted. She didn't make me forget what I saw. She just started coming home more often. She was still the untouchable Serafina Vance, regal and aloof, as if that night had been nothing but a dream. Sometimes I'd listen to my colleagues gossip about her. They said her life had been the same routine for 10 years. The only changes revolving around her daughter. They said she was impossible to approach, that getting within 5 feet of her would earn you a warning from her bodyguards. They said someone with her wealth should be living in a fortified mansion, but she stayed in this penthouse where she had lived with her husband out of respect for his memory. They said she was living a miserable life, a lonely widow honoring her husband's ghost. I always just listened in silence. I started to think maybe a mission this impossible wasn't worth it. Maybe it was better not to be alive at all. Living like this was its own kind of hell. Even the chat grew bored, resorting to simple personal attacks. I'd see daily check-ins from trolls hoping for my demise. This went on for what felt like an eternity. And because I had a reputation for being agreeable, my workload kept increasing. I sometimes wondered if this mission had a time limit. How much longer did I have to endure this? Feeling lost, I was walking a resident's small cat around the complex grounds. Lost in thought, I didn't see the man rushing towards me until it was too late. We collided hard. A stack of documents flew everywhere. The man, stumbling, kicked the cat, which hissed and clawed at the air in fright. I tried to soothe the cat while kneeling to gather the scattered papers, apologizing profusely. The man's face was a thundercloud. He looked down at a scuff mark on his expensive shoe and then kicked me squarely in the shin. "What's your employee ID? Who taught you how to do your job?" I kept my head down, explaining what happened. The man just scoffed. "I've never seen you before. You new here. Didn't your manager teach you the rules?" A small crowd was starting to gather. I handed him the stack of papers I collected. "I'm so sorry," I mumbled. "Please check if any of these are damaged. I can print them again for you." "Print them again?" he sneered. "Do you have any idea how valuable my time is? You just wasted it. Do you know what happens when Miss Vance gets upset? What am I supposed to tell her?" He was relentless, kicking me again for good measure. I just stood there too stunned to even think about dodging. "What would you like me to do to resolve this?" I asked quietly. "I'll cooperate in any way." A collective gasp went through the onlookers. I heard the smooth purr of an engine as a car pulled up nearby. The door opened and footsteps approached. A slender figure stopped beside me. The man's belligerent tone vanished instantly. "Miss Vance, you're just in time. How many times did you kick him?" Serafina's voice was ice. The man was confused, but answered honestly. "Twice. It was nothing really. A guy like this is just trash." Serafina sneered and waved a hand. 3 imposing bodyguards materialized at her side. Return the favor. Her tone was soft, devoid of emotion, but it carried an immense weight. The chat, which had been a stream of boring insults, suddenly exploded with a torrent of question marks. Did I miss a chapter? I haven't been watching for a few days. What happened, Sarah? Aren't you supposed to not care about him? I stared, stunned as Serafina's bodyguards beat the man until his face was a swollen, bloody mess. He had no idea what he'd done wrong, his protests turning into whimpers. Ms. Vance, I'm sorry. I was wrong. It was my fault. Please let me go. Serafina turned to face me. Her dark eyes were unreadable. Should they stop? Looking at the man's pathetic state, the sting of my own humiliation faded. That's enough, I said, choosing my words carefully. Serafina nodded with a slight wave of her hand. The bodyguard stopped. Effective immediately, she told the crumpled man. We will no longer require your services. The man struggled to his feet, his face ashen. He didn't dare say another word, just dragged his broken body away in a clumsy retreat. This was the first time I had witnessed Serafina's merciless side. No one in the crowd dared to intervene. In fact, the onlookers who had gathered to watch the drama scattered the moment she appeared. Everyone knew how terrifying she could be. I mumbled a quiet, "Thank you," and tried to slip away myself, but she caught my wrist. Her hand was shockingly cold. When I looked up, I was met by the sight of her smiling eyes. Her voice was soft. Is that how you thank me? At her words, the chat exploded again. Sarah, wake up. He looks nothing like your dead husband. Don't you dare tell me this is love at first sight. I'm not here for a Beauty and the Beast story with some average Joe. Can someone please tell me what he did? All he did was walk a cat. How do you grind XP by walking a cat? I was just as confused as they were. I couldn't comprehend what had caused such a dramatic shift in Serafina's behavior. Maybe it was because she hadn't smiled in so long, but the curve of her lips was almost imperceptible. And her tone, was she flirting with me? A shiver went down my spine, but strangely, it didn't feel wrong. A subconscious part of me felt that she was at her core a young woman who was supposed to be playful and affectionate. She didn't seem to expect an answer. She scooped up the small cat, which had been rubbing against her ankles, and led me to a nearby bench. I flinched as she sat me down. She immediately knelt, rolled up my pant leg, and took a bottle of liniment from another guard who had appeared. I looked down at her, only able to see the delicate line of her jaw. She looked unexpectedly gentle. Her hands worked the ointment into my bruised skin, the friction slowly warming the area. I suddenly snapped back to reality and pulled my leg back. So, I said, looking at the cat, which had trotted over to her penthouse entrance and was now settling into a small bed I'd never noticed before. That's her cat. Serafina nodded. I instinctively frowned. A gentle finger smoothed the crease between my brows. Serafina let out a soft laugh. What are you thinking? She asked. You didn't think I'd do something to the cat, did you? I quickly shook my head. No, but I was a terrible liar. That's exactly what I thought. He's 11 years old, Serafina said softly. He's been with me for 11 years. He's family. I'm not some monster who goes around hurting things. Why would you think that of me? As she spoke, I could have sworn I heard a hint of hurt in her voice. The chat was just a wall of question marks. Was today a national holiday? I just saw Sarah smile twice. I've been watching her for years. This is the second time I've ever seen her smile. Anybody remember what happened to the last person who crossed her? The aftermath wasn't pretty. Is no one going to point out that she just brought a total stranger into her building? The last time was a break-in, but this what is going on? No way. Has Sarah actually fallen for this security guard? What is so special about this guy? You've been listening to the rumors, haven't you? Serafina watched me, the hint of a smile never leaving her lips. They're all lies. Don't believe them. The rumors. I didn't interact with many people, but in that moment, I remembered the gossip from my coworkers. I shook my head again. Serafina's voice became even gentler. He was rude to you. So, I simply returned the favor. That man just lost a contract with my company. He won't lose his job over this, and he certainly won't lose his life. It was like she knew everything I was thinking. But I still remembered how her bodyguards had thrown me into the street for just looking at her. Her words didn't feel entirely credible. Still, I nodded, pretending I understood. After treating my leg, she took me to a private hospital. The entire building was empty except for the doctors and nurses standing at attention by the entrance waiting for us. She pointed at me, gave him a full workup. I realized then that her bodyguards were a different set of men. The ones who had roughed me up were gone. After the examination, I saw the doctor's grim expression as he reviewed the results. I pressed my lips together, a knot of fear tightening in my gut. After all, I didn't even remember how I had died 10 years ago. Can the scars on his body be healed? Serafina asked. The doctor nodded, his gaze falling on me. Most of the minor ones, yes, but the old injury on his leg, that will require a more detailed surgical plan. As for his face, it seems he had reconstructive surgery after an injury. It's miraculous that only his eyes are a perfect match to the old photos. I subconsciously touched my face. This wasn't what I used to look like. Serafina, however, seemed to have already known this, nodding calmly. While they discussed the full treatment plan, I was left to sit in the hallway, my mind a blank. When they were finished, Serafina handed me a cane. Use this until your leg is fully healed. I recoiled slightly. I was still young. My leg wasn't that bad. Please. Serafina's voice was soft, pleading, do it for me. Without thinking, I took it. It seemed impossible on a fundamental level to refuse her anything when she asked like that. Seeing me take the cane, she looked pleased. She told me she was taking me home. I looked at her stunned. Home? Yes. Serafina nodded. From now on, I'll take care of you. You don't have to live like that anymore. I understood Serafina less and less. The pace of this relationship was dizzying. Anyone watching would think she was the one trying to win me over. Why? Serafina smiled faintly. Because I love you. I know why you're here. She continued, her voice dropping to a near whisper. I know you were resurrected. My heart hammered against my ribs. She really didn't know everything, just like the system said. She controlled the order of this world. It bent to her will. What about the others before me? I asked, what makes me so different from them? Serafina led me to her car. The city blurred past the window as we drove because they were just challengers. You're different. You're the one I was trying to get back. My real husband. Serafina's words hit my brain with the force of a physical blow. The text of my vision exploded. Oh my God, did I hear that right? What does she mean? Is she saying this guy is her dead husband? How did she figure it out? This is insane. No wonder the system chose him for the mission. This was the master plan all along, where all the people who were trashing him for doing nothing. Speak up. Okay, my bad. I apologize. Of course, Sarah is all over him. He's the genuine article. The real deal is the real deal. Even with a new face and no memory, he's better than all those fakes. Wow, the chat's finally singing his praises. A change in status really makes a difference, huh? Maybe start with an apology, guys. The moment she said I was her real husband, my vision went white. A flood of images of moments flashed before my eyes, too quickly to grasp. I reached out, trying to catch one, but my hand closed on empty air. But I understood one thing with perfect clarity. I really was Serafina's dead husband. After a long moment, I turned to look at her. But I don't remember anything. It doesn't matter, Serafina said, her smile soft and reassuring. As long as you're back by my side, nothing else matters. The car stopped in the underground garage. She took my hand and led me to the elevator. In the reflection of the doors, I thought I saw the gentle, lovely Serafina from the fleeting images in my mind. I'll never let you leave me again, she vowed. The moment we were inside the penthouse, Serafina's control broke. She threw her arms around me, holding me in a desperate embrace. I stumbled with her into the living room, fumbling for the light switch. While holding her and trying to soothe her, I looked around the warm, inviting space. If my first time here had felt vaguely familiar, this time I knew with certainty I had designed this apartment myself. Every detail was infused with my wish for Serafina to always be happy. In the center of the living room hung a large wedding photograph. I recognized this instantly. Me and Serafina, 10 years younger. Wow, I was handsome. Seeing that photo made me feel a pang of insecurity about my current average face. Serafina followed my gaze and let out a soft sigh. It's been 10 years. She whispered. It took me 10 years to see you again. Click. The sound of a nearby door opening. Someone stepped out. It was Serafina's daughter. Our daughter. She looked at us, her expression shocked. I cleared my throat and gently sat Serafina up, creating some space between us. Serafina pouted, leaning back against me. She's 9 years old. Ethan, not an idiot. She knows what's going on. Still, being so intimate in front of her child felt wrong. But pushing Serafina away felt even more wrong. The girl had already walked over to us. She spoke, her voice clear and steady. My name is Lily. I'm 9. Mom told me that you were already gone when she found out she was pregnant with me. She said you died saving her. During a kidnapping, like a key turning in a long-forgotten lock, Lily's words unlocked my sealed memories. I remembered our company was just taking off. A competitor unable to beat us fairly resorted to violence. I found out about their plan ahead of time and decided to walk into their trap myself, drawing the target off Serafina, who they'd originally planned to take. I remember the kidnappers realizing I brought back up, their panic turning to rage as they dragged me onto a boat. An explosion, fire and water, my leg being shot as I tried to escape. The flash of the blast. There was no way to avoid it. As Lily spoke, her voice began to tremble and tears streamed down her face. I've missed you so much. Even though we had never met, the moment Lily ran into my arms, all I wanted to do was cry. The guilt of not being there to watch her grow was a physical weight on my chest. If I had known Serafina was pregnant, I never would have taken that risk. I'm so sorry, I whispered, holding her tight. Lily, who had clearly been raised well by Serafina, was a sweet child. She buried her small head in my chest. Daddy, I'm here. Daddy, I'm here. Lily's small shoulders shook as she broke down into great heaving sobs. Serafina sat beside us, quietly watching. Only when we were both cried out did she speak. Okay, Lilybug, let's let your dad rest for a bit. An overwhelming exhaustion washed over me. When I woke again, it was evening. I opened the bedroom door to see Serafina and Lily setting the table, arranging the last dishes. Daddy. Lily ran over and hugged my legs. Mommy cooked for the first time ever today. We were just about to wake you up. I smiled and lifted Lily into my arms, my eyes meeting Serafina's. Thank you. Even knowing they were my wife and daughter, I couldn't completely relax yet. It all felt too new, too fragile. Thankfully, Serafina understood and didn't press. As we ate, I finally asked the question that had been burning in my mind. How did you know it was me? Serafina paused. The first time I saw you, I wasn't sure. You looked nothing like your photos, but I felt that same panic in my heart. The only other time I've ever felt that way was when they told me you were dead. But for the past 10 years, the system has sent hundreds of challengers to try and break me. I couldn't be sure if you were just another one of its tricks or if you were really you. She took a deep breath looking directly at me. So that day when you broke into my home, I couldn't believe it. The password to the door is my birthday plus yours. I looked at her astonished. That's why I let my guard down, she continued. Do you realize how instinctively you moved that day? My panic attacks only started after you were gone. Yet you acted as if you'd been by my side through all of them. It felt like I was that same slightly naive girl who depended on you for everything. I was so scared you were fake. So scared I would wake up and you be gone again. I couldn't truly accept you until I was 100% sure. You remember that little cat? He's very territorial. Back then, you were the only other person he ever trusted. After you died, it took him years to warm up to just me and Lily. So, I used him as a test. The moment he went to you, the moment he let you get close, I knew it was you. We all recognized you, Ethan. We've missed you so much. Ethan Cole, she said, her voice thick with emotion. Welcome home. I hadn't remembered everything yet, but tears blur my vision. Anyway, the little cat, sensing my emotions, came and rubbed against my leg. So, even when I had forgotten, my heart and my body remembered for me. Everything was telling me the same thing. Welcome home. That night, I couldn't sleep. Serafina stayed up with me, telling me everything that had happened in the last 10 years. She told me how she raised Lily, showing me 9 years worth of photos and videos. I didn't know when you'd be back, but I knew you'd regret missing it, so I recorded everything, she said, her voice soft in the dark. On every birthday, every holiday, I'd give her 2 presents. I told her one was from her dad, that he loved her very much, and that he would come back one day. Lily was such a good kid. She never once cried and asked for her daddy. I took the tablet from her, my fingers trembling as I swiped through the images, watching her daughter grow up, and fast forward. A baby staring intently at the camera, a toddler laughing, a little girl learning to roll over, then stand, then run, shouting, Mommy. In every photo they took together, they always left an empty space for me, as if I had never really left. The tears started again. I closed the tablet and asked her, how are you so sure I would come back? Did you make some kind of deal with the system? Serafina's arm wrapped around me, tensed. Logically, this world should have collapsed long ago. As the story's protagonist, Serafina had gone completely off script. Since she knew the system existed, she must have found some way to force its hand. She leaned her head on my shoulder and laughed softly. Yes, we have an arrangement. You could say I have it on a leash. It needs this world to continue functioning, for the main characters to live out their lives. But I killed the man and had lined up to be the new hero. That left only me to maintain the world's order, to stop me from becoming all-powerful. It sent those challengers to try and dilute my energy to break me. But I don't want anything else. I only wanted you. Bringing you back gave it no advantage. It would only stabilize me, which it saw as a loss. I knew it had the power to restore you. I just had to become so powerful, so essential to this reality that it would have no choice but to give me what I wanted. So for 10 years, it could only watch as I took control of this world's wealth and power, piece by piece, until it had no choice but to send you back to me. 10 years, she whispered, and I finally did it. Serafina's hand moved to my leg, her tone turning ice cold. But it didn't bring you back whole. It let you come back with your scars. I could feel the dangerous energy radiating from her, but instead of fear, I felt a wave of warmth. I smiled. I'm still grateful to it, I said. It gave me a second chance. Otherwise, you would have been alone for the rest of your life. Serafina scoffed. It wouldn't have dared. I would have taken it down with me. Then, as if a switch was flipped, she clung to me. As long as they don't hurt you, nothing else matters. Her voice, full of stories, eventually lulled me towards sleep. But Serafina's own sleep was restless. In a half-conscious state, I felt her pressing closer, burrowing into my arms for warmth and safety. I instinctively held her tighter, murmuring reassurances into her hair. It's okay. Don't be afraid. Serafina stilled, and I finally fell into a deep, dream-filled sleep. I remembered everything. I remembered meeting Serafina when she was a child, fighting with stray dogs over scraps of food. The moment our eyes met, my family's housekeeper tucked a warm pretzel dog in her hand, muttered a prayer under her breath, and tugged on my arm. Let's go, young master. Serafina was covered in grime, stuffing the food in her mouth, but her eyes were startlingly clean, unnervingly intense. I held out my hand to her. I made a silent promise. If she took it, I would take her home. Without a second of hesitation, her small, dirty hand grabbed mine. She didn't speak, just stared at me. The housekeeper was startled and tried to separate us, but I refused. I took Serafina home and cleaned her up. Beneath the dirt was not a dark, grimy child, but a girl with porcelain skin and a rosy blush to her cheeks. I told my parents I wanted to keep her. There was no logical reason for it. I just felt she was quiet, beautiful, and intelligent. A child like that should have been adopted from an orphanage in a heartbeat. It wasn't until our housekeeper slipped and hid her head that I saw the truth. I saw Serafina hiding in a corner, a look of deep, unsettling satisfaction on her face. A chill went down my spine. I realized then that she had antisocial personality disorder. Similar accidents had happened with her biological parents and other foster families. Anyone who displeased her, she found a way to punish. She was brilliant and terrifying, but I kept her secret. I decided I would teach her. I would teach her the laws of society, the rules of order, and how normal people were supposed to live. Maybe because I was the one who took her in, she listened to me. I raised her, put her through school. Then my own world fell apart. My parents were framed. One died in a car crash. The other was sent to prison. I lost everything with no power to fight back. By then, Serafina was a different person from a girl I'd found. At least on the surface, she was gentle, kind, and rational. She chose to stay with me, to rebuild from nothing. We lived in a basement apartment. We ate expired food. We faced every hardship together. I didn't go to college, working odd jobs to put her through university instead. I wanted her to succeed, to go as far as she could. Since I had chosen to be responsible for her life, I would see it through to the end. After she graduated, our first company was just starting to take shape. And that's when I became a target for the system's narrative. After we were married, I died on that boat on the ocean I had always loved. Without my influence, Serafina didn't even bother to pretend anymore. She took over my company. And when the system introduced the story's new male lead, she had him killed immediately. The system couldn't touch her, couldn't risk her going to prison because the world she now controlled would crumble. Serafina became more powerful, more uncontrollable. She knew she was the protagonist in a tragic novel. She knew my death was part of the original script. So for 10 years, everything she did was to rewrite the ending to bring me back. When I woke from the dream, from the flood of memories, it was 8:00 in the morning. Serafina was still sleeping soundly in my arms. There was too much emotion swirling in my chest to put into words. In the end, I just leaned down and gently kissed her forehead. "Sarah," I whispered. "I remember everything. I'm really back." As if hearing me in her sleep, Serafina stirred and slowly woke up. Her body trembled as she wrapped her arms around me, holding on as if her life depended on it. "Ethan." She said my name over and over, and each time I answered, "Yes, it's me. It's really me." After 10 years, I was finally home. Seeing my progress bar finally hit 100%, the system let out what sounded like a digital sigh of relief. It granted us a new ending, a happy one. The live stream chat, which had been my constant companion, appeared one last time. "Congratulations. Seriously, congrats. I'm actually crying. OMG. I thought this was a redemption arc, but it was a homecoming story all along. I don't want to say goodbye, but I guess this is it. Ethan and Sarah, you better live happily ever after." Slowly, the text faded from my vision for the last time. I knew our story was finally over. Now our real life could begin. After lingering in bed for a while, we finally got up. It was the weekend and Lily was still sleeping in. I looked around the penthouse, a place filled with so many memories, and made a decision. "Sarah," I said, "let's move. Even though this place was our history, if we were going to start over, we should do it completely." Serafina agreed. We moved into a beautiful house in the suburbs. Lily loved the new place with its big yard, but for the first week, she was a little unsettled. "Mommy, Daddy, can I sleep with you?" she asked, her eyes wide. "I'm a little scared." Serafina put her hands on her hips, her face set in a firm line. "Absolutely not." But this was my first real week with my daughter. I was powerless to refuse her. "Come on, Sarah," I pleaded. "Just for tonight?" That night, she lay between us, a contented smile on her face. "I've only ever seen this in movies," she mumbled sleepily. "Kids sleeping between their parents. I know I'm a big kid now, but I finally get to do it. I'm so happy." I nodded, my heart full. Me too. Lying there with my wife on one side and my daughter on the other, I felt a profound peaceful joy.